Brad Marchand played with a heavy heart on Saturday night in his return and delivered. And the Panthers proved once again that they are, in fact, the best defensive team in hockey.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, November 3rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MonoMan12. Follow the show anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. You can do that all on Game Time. So, Florida Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Panthers as the Panthers finish off the homestand with 5 out of a possible 8 points. Now they will be heading out west for a road trip. We will discuss that in the third and final segment, how the ups and downs of the Panthers historically of the places that they will be going to on the road trip. We're going to discuss in the first segment, the Panthers 4-3 shootout win against the Dallas Stars. And then the Panthers, great things coming in 17s throughout the homestand, and the Panthers proving why there are, yes, I'm saying this on November 3rd, the best defensive team in hockey. So let's start off with the 4-3 shootout win for the Florida Panthers over the Dallas Stars. And the Panthers once again showing up big against a Stanley Cup contender as the Dallas Stars, yes, they were without Rope Hintz in this one. Yeah, it's a new coach. And yeah, we spoke about the power play for the Dallas Stars being as dangerous as can be. Although the Florida Panthers did score 2 quick goals in 3 minutes in the second period, thanks to Brad Marchand playing with a heavy heart off that turnover that Anton Lundell created, coming up the middle, back checking, and then intercepting, quick breakout for the Panthers, and then getting it past the glove of Casey DeSmith, trickled off him, and then in the back of the net. And then Sam Reinhart throwing it on net after Evan Rodriguez kept it in the zone, threw it off the boards, and then Casey DeSmith was out of position, and then Sam Reinhart throwing it on the net. But the Panthers still cool, calm, collective after those 2 power play goals on the double minor by the Dallas Stars in the second period. 2 goals in less than 14 seconds. Wyatt Johnson on one of them, and Justin Cohen, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, there for his first career NHL goal. And he was the one who was hit with the high stick from Seth Jones that drew blood. And the Panthers, although there were stretches in this game where they were pinned in their own end, including in the overtime where it was Lundell, Ekblad, and Sam Reinhart in the overtime period, and even at times, even before the Panthers got a touch after Seth Jones committed the penalty, the Panthers still were structurally there when it came to the defense and forcing the Dallas Stars to the outside, eliminating also their chances up the middle. The breakout passes, the Panthers were intercepting them, battling along the neutral zone. The Panthers just continued to still find ways and stretches of dominance in this one. And when things were even for the Panthers, especially when things were tied at 2 for both teams, the Panthers still were able to get the pucks in deep and work on their forecheck. And even some big chances against that, the Panthers that the Stars had, the battles at the net front were outstanding. Gustav Forsling at the end of the third period stopping a chance for the Dallas Stars to take the lead. And even in the beginning of the game, Bob was out of the net, and then Sam Reinhart didn't allow Wyatt Johnson to get a quality chance. And also Gustav Forsling, great stick position in the lanes to at least get the puck out towards the boards, and then the Panthers could get off to the races when it came to transition. Transition play was outstanding, and we mentioned that in the Marchand goal, and also how Brad Marchand, we saw the other night against the Anaheim Ducks, although the Panthers did have those stretches of dominant play in the first 33 minutes for the Panthers there, we saw how big he was missed for the Panthers, and just taking the eyes away from the goaltenders, and also getting those chances, and also those board battles. But also I thought the first penalty that the Panthers committed, you're seeing different guys put in different positions. Yeah, we talk about Evan Rodriguez playing at center. We haven't really spoken about Cole Schwint playing on the penalty kill, which he played with Eetu Luostarinen on Saturday night. He even also got a nice shorthanded rush chance where he was able to fight off a check as well. And the Panthers really, but even before the two goals, they were getting some of those quality chances as well. And Donovan Sebrango, the Cuban Canadian, making his Panthers debut, he finished the game with an 85% expected goal share for him and that pair, thanks to courtesy of our friends at Money Puck. And also, the only mistake that I truly saw Sebrango make, at least from what I remember, is a drop pass near the far side corner, and then a quality chance that was created by the Dallas Stars from there. But I thought that Jeff Petry also helped Sebrango a lot in Saturday's game when it came to the puck support. The Dallas forecheck was actually pretty good, especially on the Rantanen goal that Aaron Ekblad was overwhelmed by, and just a quick touch that got it over the shoulder of Sergei Bobrovsky. There were times where that Ekblad Forsling pair was actually kind of struggling, but it made up from the bottom four guys on the D pairs for the Panthers on just how well they performed. So that's another thing of just picking guys up when you look at the Panthers and looking at when we previewed this, yeah, Stanley Cup favorite, yeah, they've been to 3 straight Western Conference Finals, but again, you see a logo on the other side, and yeah, if you don't think that players, even adults that see another logo on the other side, are not motivated by it, this was proof of how the Panthers view other teams when it comes to their play. Maybe it wasn't as inspiring against the Pittsburgh Penguins, knowing that when the narrative was that they are likely going to be in a rebuild, but then you see the start that Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby are on, which I believe Evgeny Malkin still leads the league in points. But you see how when you see 3 straight Western Conference Finals for the Dallas Stars, the Panthers were just on their A game, and even though the Panthers didn't really tilt the ice in overtime, it was more in the direction of the Dallas Stars. The Panthers were still able to make the key saves when needed to. It was not necessarily quantity as much as what Sergei Bobrovsky was getting on Saturday night, but he still stood tall. There was a big shot redirection after a point shot from Thomas Harley that he was able to stop, and then and that was one of the stretches where the Panthers were pinned in their own zone, and to think that Brad Marchand might have taken the Panthers out of position when he made that hit on Wyatt Johnston near the end boards, but also the Panthers were still able to escape and not have any more damage done. At that point, it was still a 2-2 hockey game, and then the Panthers taking the lead in the third period, 12:26 into the period, where it was a drop pass give and go from Mackie Samoskevich, a backdoor feed that bounced off, and then Bennett is able to knock it in. It's been a struggle for Sam Bennett, but his ability to get to the net front, which the Panthers have been struggling with at points this season offensively, it's because the forwards are not getting as fast in transition. So sometimes whenever the Panthers do go in transition / the counterattack, the forwards aren't getting there on time. And sometimes those are the quick shots, and sometimes the defense for the opposition has been backing in their own end, and then you just get a quick one-touch pass out of the zone, even if it's deflecting off the half walls and in. You're tiring the opposition out by having them consistently regroup in the neutral zone. So that's also a thing that I saw a lot better for the Florida Panthers as far as what they were able to do for this win against the Dallas Stars. I mean, it's it's not a swing game by any means when it comes to these wins against Vegas and Dallas, and even getting a point against the Anaheim Ducks. But when you look at this, you're banking those points. That's what really matters for this Florida Panthers team. And it's a two straight games where you're going into a shootout. Listen, Brad Marchand, after the goal, not only did he lift his finger to the sky, pointing up to Selah, but also talking about his new perspective on life when it came to the intermission interview that he had with Katie Engelson, and talking about how he wants to live life like her and giving him a new perspective. And to think that you could have a new perspective with someone who only lived 10 years, that's powerful. That's also the power of sports, of just how it could lift the spirits of one person and the team. And also the shootout attempt that Brad Marchand had, just going with speed and realizing that Casey DeSmith was committed down low early. And then when the moment that he lifted his pads up just slightly, Brad Marchand was able to get it through the 5-hole. And listen, you watching that, if you were watching that, and especially if you're in the arena and you're seeing that, and you're seeing what and knowing Brad Marchand, what he'd been through, comment down below when you saw that the Brad Marchand taking the shootout attempt, how certain were you that he was going to convert on it? Like I want to hear from you guys about that. And the Panthers really, even when things were going well and they were taking the lead, I mean, you see only 4 shots on goal throughout the period right before Mikko Rantanen scored, and still the Panthers were able to just play tight defensively after just one crucial mistake off of a turnover when the Dallas Stars were on the forecheck. But even then, the Panthers were still able to get that extra point, which is oh so important when you're talking about how there hasn't been really any separation in the Eastern Conference as of right now. But we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we are going to discuss how great things for the Panthers have come in 17s. And the Panthers, there are without some emotional leaders and leaders on the ice for the Panthers, but the Panthers are still the best defensive team in hockey, as great things have come in 17s throughout this Panthers homestand. We'll discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets with a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making a late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Also, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch. And let's be honest, most of us can't even name our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can even mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one easy, clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. And I noticed that I was paying for some subscriptions that I was not using anymore. So Monarch was truly a big assist in helping me realize that in order to help me unsubscribe from those subscriptions. So Monarch's visual data boards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money is going and make it work harder for me. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at Monarch.com for 50% off of your first year. That's Monarch.com with code LOCKEDONNHL for half off of your first year. Segment number 2 here on this Monday, November 3rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday. And the thing is, for the Panthers on this homestand, 2-1-1. Yeah, you let the Pittsburgh game slip away with poor goaltending, which again for the Panthers here. And when you look at the records for the Panthers past October, which they finished 5-1-1 for the season. For the Panthers, the last 3 years in their runs to the Stanley Cup Final, they've averaged around 6 to 7 wins in the last 3 years. In the start of the season in October, and also they finished this one with 5. So they are around the same area of what they've been. in these last 3 years. So also that's credit to the Panthers on still using their formula to win, and their formula is still shot suppression, which the Panthers all throughout this homestand in regulation, keyword in regulation, especially with the exception of the Vegas game, which went not Vegas game, the Ducks game that went into overtime. Regulation for the Panthers has finished in 17s throughout the entirety of the contest in regulation, and the Panthers doing it with defense. When you think about all the guys who are not in the lineup for the Panthers, when you're talking about the on ice leaders in Alexander Barkov, the lead by example guy, and also the emotional leaders in Matthew Tkachuk, who drags guys into the fight, and then to think that we mentioned Brad Marchand and the emotion that he brings. When you're missing Matthew Tkachuk, you still have another one who fits into the culture like Brad Marchand does. That the Panthers still have those pieces of the formula that really truly help the Panthers and when it comes to shot suppression. And also Evan Rodriguez has been a lot better at center for the Panthers as I anticipated. Once again we saw stretches of that in the 2024 playoffs, but still the fact that that's the Panthers top line with Sam Reinhart and Carter Verhaeghe on the top line. I mean it's not as easy to distribute the puck for, especially Carter Verhaeghe. Yeah, he's not really getting in on the goal scoring as much as we want him to, but still, the Panthers are still playing a defensively responsible game, with which you see Carter Verhaeghe a little sacrificing a little bit of that offense for them. But the Panthers total shots against per game right now is leading the NHL at 23.5, and that is 1.4 less shots per game than the next closest team. And every single team that's in the top 10 right now in shots against per game has at least a 530 points percentage. Only one team does not have that, and that's the St. Louis Blues. And they're giving up 4.17 goals per game. That just goes to show how poor Jordan Binnington and Joe Hofer have been. They are leaking in goals off of very few chances for the Panthers. And I mean, we saw it in the homestand on 17 shots by the Pittsburgh Penguins on how those stretches really truly hurt the Panthers when you see one shot go through and you're not reacting as quickly. You're not stretching in the blocker, and then you're getting beat on the far side, as we saw especially last Thursday for the Panthers there on their homestand. But still, the Panthers are still doing it well with decent penalty killing. It hasn't been the best, but 5-on-5, we mentioned this, and all of the other teams for the Panthers who have given up, who have scored a lot of 5-on-5 goals, and also have given up a good amount of goals at 5-on-5. A lot of them are 10 more in both of those categories. So it goes to show once again of how the Florida Panthers are. That you see a team's pace being up here, a visual on the YouTube, and then taking it to a different level down here, and just how the Panthers continue to slow the game down. And it's more than just personnel. It's just about, once again, Paul Maurice preaching for the Panthers on just on the defensemen, especially for the Panthers, and especially when they retrieve the pucks in their own end. And especially I've noticed this for the Panthers, especially when the Panthers are disrupting play at their own blue line, and then the defensemen are there to support and back things up. It's not always just about those quick stretches to get a deflection and then getting it to the other end boards to get a change, but it's also about just just keeping it in your own end. And even if it takes the opposition a full 5-man change for them, the Panthers aren't afraid of doing that in order to not only protect their goaltender, but also keep it on their sticks more often whenever they do step on the ice for hockey games. So that's another thing that is continue to show that the Panthers are truly still a force in the NHL. And the Panthers, encouraging for what they were able to do in this homestand for them. But once again, the fact that it's a home heavy schedule and they're taking advantage of it. Listen, the Panthers, this was over 500, and that's what you want. At the end of the day, we talk about being over. We talk about the first benchmark that's coming up in American Thanksgiving, which if the Panthers find themselves over that mark, although there isn't a lot of separation in the East right now, that is still a decent place, because you saw the Tampa Bay Lightning. Right now they're on a 5-game winning streak. They were in the bottom of the East, and now they're making their way. So it just takes one decent run to at least be in a better position than what you were at the beginning of the season. Which the Panthers, they haven't really moved up and down, but they've still been one night that they're not playing, they could go from third in the Atlantic Division all the way to the middle of the pack in the first few teams out in the wild card. That's truly how the puck, instead of how the ball's rolled, how the puck has rolled in this case, because this is a hockey podcast. That's truly how it's been for the Panthers here. So we've seen a lot of that flip flopping early in the season, but the Panthers still using their defensive mindset, especially when you look at the line of Anton Lundell, Etulis Thranen, and Brad Marchand, which Brad Marchand has the higher of the offensive ceiling of the three, but you still have two guys who complement them well. You talk about how Evan Rodriguez, he's grown so much as a defensive player. Him and Sam Reinhart are the more defensively minded guys, while Carter Verhaeghe is the more of the guy who could score offensively. You look at the Sam Bennett line, not as much there, but Jesper Boquist, he plays penalty kill minutes. It's more two offensive guys and one more of a defensively responsible player. So at least the top six, you have a majority of the guys in your lineup who are more defensively minded versus offensive. So that's really what's going to help, as those guys in the top six are the guys who crunch the more of those minutes and get more of those opportunities against the higher talents of who they face night in and night out. So the Panthers are doing the job there for at least helping them at least bank some points, because right now that's really what it's all about. Right before the Panthers flip the calendar to the new year, and the Panthers in this season at least, it's a little bit of signs of 2023, first year of Paul Maurice, except more wins are on the Panthers have been able to bank this time around versus 2023, and guys just learning to play with new people, so that when the Panthers do get a lot healthier, at least that's the hope right now, a knock on wood, the Panthers, if they need to go back to certain combinations in case things go wrong down the line as far as the injury front, the Panthers can do just that. And the early growing pains of the first road trip hurt the Panthers, but it also might have helped the Panthers as far as how to play with one another. And that's where we are going to transition over to segment number 3, where the Panthers will be heading on a 4-game road trip out in California and Las Vegas. And it's been a tale of two different destinies in each place that they have played, that they will be playing throughout this road trip. We're going to discuss them more next year on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And hockey season is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than being live in person. And let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. And that's where Game Time comes in. The app gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack, scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NHL tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Third and final segment here on this Monday, November 3rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday, as the Panthers wrapped up their homestand at 2-1-1, 5 out of the 8 points, and the Panthers will now be heading out on the road as they will be meeting the Anaheim Ducks again for the second time in just a week's time. And the Panthers will be heading to a certain place where they haven't played well, and then another place where they have played exceptionally well, at least in the last 10 years. But the Panthers, we spoke about the home-heavy schedule. We spoke about how I don't know if disastrous is the right word for the Panthers. Whenever you see where the Panthers are at least right now in this season, and then you see how they ended it with a win in Boston, in Brad Marchand's return, video tribute, crying. I mean, God, we spoke about the heavy heart that Brad Marchand was playing with this week with the unfortunate passing of Selah MacCallum, but also in the last 2 weeks, you had that emotional game in Boston. So it's been a roller coaster of emotion for number 63. But thinking about just how every single game for the Panthers, when you look at the beginning of their first road trip, which the scores look more lopsided than they actually were in Philadelphia and Detroit. 4 empty net goals combined to at least make those make it more of a separation, and that's where the Panthers' goal differential actually can be a little bit deceiving. And then the second to last game in the road trip, you just get flat out goalied by former Panther Alex Lyon. The Panthers truly had the ice tilted in their direction, just couldn't find the back of the net. Didn't really create a lot of those second chance opportunities, but they truly had the ice tilted in their direction. And to think that even on the last game of that road trip again in Boston, they won without having the territorial advantage, which more times than not, when you see the Panthers and that territorial advantage, they will come out on the winning side for them. But looking at this 4-game road trip for the Panthers, I mean, it's the second time you're seeing the Anaheim Ducks in a matter of a week. Chris Kreider is back after having a hand, foot, and mouth disease. That's why he missed the last game against the Panthers, which it's more common when you have kids. And Elliot Freeman of 32 Thoughts spoke about how that's not something that you necessarily want. I've never experienced it, but it doesn't sound very pleasant. But it's been also a tale of different destinies for the Panthers, as this trip has come in different parts of the year for the Panthers. As far as the last few years, one part of the year it's in March, throughout in the past, and then sometimes it's been in November. I mean, I do remember this trip in 2023-24. The Panthers were bringing back Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad after a back-to-back against the Kings and the Ducks. Josh Mahura gets injured, and then the very next day, Brandon Montour and Aaron Ekblad do return to the lineup, which we see different. It's funny because the memory bank here is truly strong when it comes to certain games, which I didn't mention this in the first segment, which when the Stars scored those 2 power play goals, do you remember what was happening right before those goals? It was an ice fixture in the Panthers' end where the ice crew was fixing something. If you remember and you go back to the 2020 season for the Panthers, when they were in the same division as the Dallas Stars, there was a stoppage after an icing that the glass was out of position. They fixed it, and then it was the Panthers who actually were the ones to come back against the Stars. This one was at home. This was at Amerant Bank Arena. I forget which date it was, but certain things happen where it swings a little bit of momentum for the Panthers. But the Panthers have had a little bit of heartbreak against the Kings, at least in the last few years, which we saw. Which we saw a late goal for the Kings in their road game last year, but the Panthers did respond the very next week with a 3-0 shutout. But we also saw that COVID game where half the lineup was out, and the Panthers did not have a chance in that one. We saw the Sam Reinhart game winner in the last 5 seconds of overtime, which the Panthers were able to do. But the Panthers haven't won in Los Angeles. This has been a house of horrors for the Panthers over the last 6 years. They didn't play, obviously, in 2021, but their last win came in 2019 at Crypto.com Arena for the Panthers, formerly known as Staples Center, the last time the Panthers had won there. But the Panthers have historically been great in San Jose. The last time they lost the game in San Jose was at least in 2015, November 5th, 2015, actually, to be exact. So the Panthers have had a great time at the Shark Tank, as the Sharks will score a lot, but they will give up a lot as well. So this fits well for the Panthers, as far as, once again, they are known as a team that slows things down. And if you saw how the Panthers performed against the San Jose Sharks in both of their matchups just last year, the Panthers gave Macklin Celebrini a whole lot of nothing. And the Panthers have been up and down in Anaheim as well, and it really starts on Tuesday night, 10 p.m. All the games are at 10 p.m. So you have one specific time to memorize throughout these next 4 games: 10 p.m., 10 p.m., 10 p.m., 10 p.m. For Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and then Monday in Vegas, which the Panthers still have only one win, in Vegas throughout their history. No games won until after the Panthers lost in the Stanley Cup final. The very next season, the Panthers were able to become victorious for the first time in Vegas, and that's their only win. So and the great thing about the most recent road trip for the Panthers is when things didn't go right and they had a hard time coming up with that game time goal for them. There's nothing and nowhere to hide when you're not performing well on the road. You're with your teammates for team dinners. You're on team buses, unless you're Matthew Barzal of the New York Islanders, who missed the team bus and was scratched. Everybody is forced to be around each other. That's the great thing about, and that's what I hope that the Panthers can create some of that off ice chemistry with the new guys coming in, especially, is that they see more of how the culture and how the sauce is made behind the scenes, at least for the players, and getting around the guys. These road trips, at least early on, are not going to be as common for them, but this is an opportunity for the Panthers. Late games on the East, the body clock is out of whack for them, but I would argue that it's easier for East Coast teams to go out west than west to east. At least I would argue that part, versus a 10 a.m. Pacific time game for a team playing a matinee. But I believe it's easier for teams to go out west, especially when their adrenaline is going. These guys are up past midnight, even on non-game days, because that's what because they're just so used to it on a game night, especially with the Panthers, especially with a lot of their homes being in downtown Fort Lauderdale and having to drive on 595. Their body clocks are just used to being up after a certain time. So I believe it's not as much of a disadvantage as we make it out to be. So that it's also a great time for the Panthers to really, truly bank some points, as the Panthers, they showed it in the past of how they've been able to go in different road environments and win. We saw it in Carolina in Game 5, Game 7 in Toronto, how they dominated the shots, not even giving a shot attempt to the Leafs until midway through in Game 7. And this is once again another opportunity to get your game right and have the game travel, as we read the stats of the shots against for the Panthers, which has been exceptionally well for them. And thank goodness that the formula that the Panthers have, it's one that truly travels, and we'll see if it results in wins. But the process is outstanding, and the Panthers are somewhat getting results when it comes to at least working out their process, which is honestly, for the Panthers, looking at it and zooming out, the Panthers are once again in an outstanding place, knowing all the circumstances, which once again I could beat the dead horse for hours and hours on this. But that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. We'll be bringing you some shows to preview the matchups between the Florida Panthers and the Anaheim Ducks, and sometimes at least game day pods throughout the week. You may have later afternoon releases as we are trying to change the body clock throughout the week as the Panthers are out. Although it's not late for these players, it's a little late for yours truly, as we will be shooting game day recordings, possibly pushing it a little later, so you'll still have a lot of time in order to get your hockey fix. And also we will be recording past 2 a.m. on the actual games for recap. So make sure to subscribe here so that you get all of your recaps and more. But that's going to do it for today's episode. But in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone, and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.